Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and Happy New Year! We're almost Happy New Year because I'm probably posting this a few days before. That's the plan. Happy New Year! Happy 2021! You have survived one of the worst years of existence, minus Trump money and a much needed reset, I guess. Yeah, you survived 2020. So this is gonna be different. Usually I do a year in review where I break down the best films I've seen and the worst films I've seen. Whew. Or this year was strange, meaning specifically movie theaters were closed. I made it a point to not really watch anything because there was nothing really to watch, and I kind of lost the specialness of it. To give a shout out to my friend Anna Ace, aka The Little Posts of Horror, aka Pumpkin Face, she said it best: going to the movie theaters was special. Now that everything's readily available, nothing's special. Kind of like, you remember buying that album from, you know, Fill in the Blank Band, and when they came out, you're like, yes, I'm so excited. Now you don't need to because it's there. And because it's there, you're less inclined to be excited about it. At least speaking personally. So, because this isn't the best and worst of 2020, because there wasn't enough best or worst films really to review, I'm going to settle this down and get this down to one thing that best represents the year and one thing that best represents the negativity of the year. Not really a film, but I think it best represented the best part of the year, and that is Tiger King. Oh my gosh, Mr. Deathbed, why are you mentioning Tiger King? This is when we were all confused, we were all sitting around, we were kind of partially denying what was happening, but also kind of freaking out that everyone was buying toilet paper, kind of feeling kind of frustrated that things were disappearing, like food, meat, vegan meat out of all things, and water. And we were kind of like, oh man, this year sucks, and it was mostly just like, oh man, this year sucks, followed by laughter, before it took a negative turn. So initially, it was actually kind of one of those things where it was kind of like, huh. And guess what we all had in common? We all started watching Tiger King. And by the third or fourth episode, we're all like, F. Carol Baskins, that bitch! That's where we ended up being by the time we were 5 episodes in. Personally speaking, I'm going to speak for myself. When I started watching this, I'm like, what the heck is Tiger King? Does he feed people to tigers? Is it about a man that owns tigers? And oh my gosh, it pretty much delivered on all those things. It was so weird. And then you really break it down, it's like, what the heck? It's about a guy that's homosexual that's giving gender-flexible men drugs to make them homosexuals. I'm like, okay, that's what you're about. You enjoy yourself, you do what you gotta do. And then he has some random grudge with this lady named Carol Baskins who owns a competing animal farm zoo thing that treats them humane because allegedly, you know, Joe Exotic doesn't. It's like, what am I watching? It just doesn't make any sense. And yet, as weird as it was, it fit perfectly with this year, and as weird as it was, everyone was watching it. My dad watched it. My dad would never watch that. Why would he watch this? He'd be like, why am I watching this? He watched it. That alone says 2020 is whack. Like, oh my gosh. But that alone also shows how captivating this one piece of entertainment was. This realistic piece of entertainment, this semi-documentary mini-series thing about a guy named Joe Exotic. How bizarre it was. It brought everyone in. It was the perfect time for us to watch it. We were all still in denial of how bad 2020 was going to be. And that being said, with that, Tiger King was probably the best thing that came out of 2020. It had the strangest, most broad audience. It was so bizarre. I don't understand it. But that definitely united us. We were united in this absolute absurdity of what was Tiger King. Would I take that ride again, knowing what I saw? Probably. Yeah, I probably would. It was really weird. Yeah. So now let's wind it to the worst part of 2021 or 2020. Tenet was one of those films where it was very much a push. It's like, you know what? Life isn't normal. But you know what? Let's get Tom Cruise to back our movie and have him come see it. It's like,
oh yeah, Christopher Nolan. Yeah, this is what it does. Christopher Nolan's yeah, let's get Tom Cruise. Yeah, Tom Cruise. He's never seen the movie either. All right. And now
they get Tom Cruise to see the movie. He wears a mask, watches it, and claps. I loved it. It's like, bro, did you watch that movie? I had the displeasure of seeing it, not in the theaters, but in a drive-in. So I guess like my own personal theater. I don't know. I was in a drive-in. And I think it's a point that, with all respect to Christopher Nolan, but I think he's finally believing that people believe what he is as one of the best filmmakers. Arguably, you could argue that he's the best, the worst, whatever, but there's a lot of hype behind him, and I think he's finally starting to believe his own hype. So this is kind of like a semi-Tenet review, so I'm going to try to avoid it since I already kind of went through, but basically it's like, it doesn't make any sense How do you make time traveling most complicated as possible? Have Christopher Nolan write it. How do you get an interesting concept with poor characters that make no sense? Have poor characters. How do you get a movie that makes people want to not understand what they're watching? And when they finally try to get the movie and finally understand what's happening, the movie gets completed and it's over. And you're like, what the hell did I just watch? Why is someone talking about going to the flower shop when a minute ago we're talking about shooting each other? That is how the movie goes. It doesn't make any sense. It's absolutely bananas in the worst way. You usually say bananas because something's like, oh, it's bananas. Like, that's so crazy and interesting. And that's kind of bizarre. No, it's bananas as in, like, being spun upside down and someone shooting you with whipped cream in the face or someone hitting you in the back of the head with a pool noodle bananas. It just doesn't make any sense. It is probably the biggest piece of garbage that I've seen in years. I mean, I'm talking even against Birds of Prey. It didn't make the list. That movie tried to do its own thing, but at least it made sense. Maybe I didn't like it, but it still made sense. This is just convoluted, nonsensical garbage, like the whole year of 2020.